What's going on, guys? Welcome back. We got another install video for today. It's going to be this Fleece Performance PCV blocker plate on the old Duramax, and it's fairly simple, straightforward. I'm going to show you how to do it. Okay, guys, so to start things off, what we are going to be replacing or blocking and capping off is going to be back here. And if you guys missed a video on the installation of that, I will leave a link in the description. Go back one video, check that out. It's actually a pretty interesting video. Quick and simple install again, and I will leave a link to that. So what we're going to be blocking off today is actually back here. It's going to be this, if I can set my light up, it's going to be this right here. So there's a 10 mil bolt here, and then there's another 10 mil bolt on the bottom back side, way back up in here, down, I don't know if you can see it, it's way back in here where my finger's at. There's a 10 mil bolt back here and a 10 mil bolt up here, and we're going to be removing those and take that off, and then follow on along down here where it connects to the PCV valve. We're going to replace this line. So this line here, we're going to be replacing with some new line, and we're just going to run it down to our frame. And the reason for doing this is because a PCV valve is a positive crank ventilation. And what that does is this engine is going to create positive pressure internally, and it releases that pressure through the valve cover. So the positive ventilation from the engine comes up through the valve cover, through that PCV valve, into this line, and then it comes right back up, goes right back into your intake, which is fine. I mean, that's fine. That's good that you are recirculating the positive crank pressure, but what's happening is it's also putting minute amounts of oil into the intake as well, and that's not good, because what's happening is the oil that's going back into the intake is gumming up your intake. It's gumming up your intake plenum, and then it gets sucked right into the turbine of your turbo, and that's not good. That's going to cause problems. So we're going to go ahead and alleviate that issue today by installing this blocker plate, which goes right back here, and then all the positive crank pressure is going to be, rather than brought back into the intake tube, it's going to be shot out to my frame, and that's fine. So that's what we're going to do today. I would rather go to my frame than go back into my turbo. So real quick, guys, this is the tubing that I've got. It's going to replace the stock tubing. This is going to run down to my frame. This is an oil tube. It's 3/4 inch inside diameter, and you can run down to your local hardware store, auto parts store. They'll carry it. You do not want to replace it with a coolant line. They carry on the shelf 3/4 inch coolant line. You do not want to use that. Coolant lines are made out of material called EDPM, and what that is an ethylpropylene dynamometer, which is okay. It's good to resist heat and the ozone damage, but it doesn't do good for hydrocarbons like motor oil, which is essentially what is being pushed through this. And I believe that this was about $5 or $6 a foot. I got 6 feet of it. I don't know how much I'm actually going to need, but I got 6 feet. That should be plenty. I'm just going a short distance. I'll let you guys know how much I actually end up using, and I'll show you where I'm going to route it, to how much you're actually going to need to purchase to do this. But this is a necessity. You're going to want this. You do not want regular coolant line. That, and you're going to need some hose clamps. I've got 4 of them. Again, I'm probably going to need 2, but I got 4 just in case something happens. Say one of these hose clamps, because they're a worm gear inside of here. And what happens is that worm gear every once in a while won't mesh properly with these little slits in it. So I just grabbed 4 of them just in case. They're cheap. So let's get right to the install. Alright, so what we're going to do first is come down here, get yourself a 10 mil wrench. You're going to want a wrench and not a ratchet, because a ratchet won't fit back here underneath this cowl. I mean, unless you have a really stubby ratchet and a really stubby socket, but a wrench is going to do just fine. So we're going to break these loose. Just go in here, break the top one loose. And again, this bottom one is kind of a pain to get you guys in to see. But let's see if I can get you back there. There is, let's see if you can see my wrench right here. There is a bolt back here. And if you can get on it, just break it loose. And once you get it broke loose, you should be able to take them out with your fingers. Alright, first bolt's out. Stick it up here in your cowl, that way you don't lose it. And that first bolt actually holds a bracket for one of your clips. So you're going to need to make sure when you install this, this clip gets back over the plate. Second bolt's out. So now, we're just going to kind of give it a quick little wiggle and push it out. And it should just pop out. Well, I say should. It's got an O-ring in there, which is keeping it in. So, grab yourself a screwdriver, and I will show you how to get this out. So, just very carefully take your flat blade screwdriver, stick it down here, just give it a twist. Just keep working around it, and it will eventually come out. Just be careful with it, you don't want to break anything. There we have it, it's out. So now that it's out, we're gonna have to come down here. So follow that line all the way down here to, there's a clamp. So I can set you guys up. Okay, there's a clamp down here. This clamp right here, you're gonna need to remove this. And it's a fairly stout clamp. So you don't wanna pry too hard on this because it is plastic that it overlays, and you don't wanna break the plastic because that'll be a nightmare. So I'm gonna go ahead and just cut this off and show you guys the next step. Okay, so that clamp is now off. The next step is going to be to remove this 10 mil bolt right here that secures the tube to the intake. Guys, so this is what I'm talking about. So you can see this is the PCV that we're going to be blocking. All the oil residue that's on this is going into your turbo through your intake. That's why we are going to delete this. So, got the clamp off. The clamp was off down there, and then all you have to do, set this light up. All you have to do is twist this hose a little bit and give it a pull, and it'll come off. And it's off. And then that's what we're left with. So what you're going to want to do, whenever you're left with this little nipple right here, get your new line and put it over it. Just press it on. It's going to be kind of a pain, but just press it on until it's down there where the old one needs to rest. Okay, so if it ends up you can't just press this over it, get a little bit of oil, put a little bit of motor oil on the inside of this, and then it should go over fairly simple. That's the step I'm going to take because I couldn't get it over it. So I'm going to put some motor oil inside here and push it on. Okay, the hose is on. Next step is going to be put a clamp over it. So go from the other end, slide your clamp all the way down, and then tighten the clamp up. Alright, so once you got the clamp on, you just got to route it down to the frame. And the way that I routed it was I went underneath this wire loom, went down right in front of my intercooler piping, or behind my intercooler piping, down behind my brake lines, and then down to the frame. And I'll go down underneath the truck and show you where I routed it. So under the truck, you can see the red line coming out there. I pushed it right up here, following your wire loom. And it follows your frame right next to your wire loom, Comes out the other side above or right next to your body mount. And I will cut it off just a little bit. I'll probably cut, I don't know, a foot off and zip tie it up. So you're probably not going to need 5 feet. 4 feet will probably do you. But that's the way that I ran it. And I will get it zip tied in place. The next step is going to be installing this blocker plate. And it has an O-ring on it. And I just put some motor oil on the O-ring to lubricate it. And then stick it back here and it's home. You can fit your hand back there. So you just slide it in. Give it a little pressure, spin, it should pop in. That's it, it's in. So now we gotta install the bolts. Okay, so these are the bolts that are supplied with this Fleece Performance blocker plate. They're 5 mils, Allen heads. So remember that you have a wire loom back here that has mounts on it that need to come up and be put back in place. So make sure those go put back in place. Otherwise your wires will be floating around and they'll wear through something and then you'll have an issue because your wires will wear through. Okay, one bolt started. Line up the other end of the bracket in the bolt hole. I said bolt hole. Got that one started, and then just gonna want to go in and tighten them up. And remember, again, there are metal inserts inside of here that the bolt screws into, but that is in plastic, so don't over tighten them because you will crack the plastic and then you have to replace your whole intake plenum and intake tube. Again, you don't want to do that. That's expensive and you just don't want to do it, so avoid over tightening them. I'm gonna get these tightened up real quick. If you're done installing the bolts and getting them tightened up, just go over everything. Go ahead and do the field test. So touch the bolt, make sure it's tight. Come down here to your hose clamp that you installed. Make sure the hose clamp is tight. Make sure you can't walk it around. And then go underneath the truck. Make sure it's zip tied out of the way. Make sure this hose isn't rubbing up against anything. And start the truck. Let it run. And run your hand around the part you just installed. Make sure there's no air coming out and no suction to go in. Make sure that it's sealed up properly. Alright guys, so the next step is going to be to start the truck like you hear it running and do a quick test to make sure that you don't have any air leaks. But also, don't forget, if you put any bolts or tools up in that cowl, make sure you get them out. Like I got a wrench up there, and I don't want to miss that. Make sure you get that wrench out of there. Do a quick once over, make sure you don't have any tools left all over your truck. Do that before you actually start the truck. You don't want to have a tool up in your serpentine belt when you go to start it. Next step's going to be checking for an air leak though. Guys, so with the truck running, just go ahead and feel around for any air leaks. And everything seems good. Still no air leaks, no vacuum suction on it, nothing. So, this install is now done. It took me all of about, I don't know, 15 minutes. Pretty simple. If you guys enjoyed this video or found it helpful, make sure to like, comment, subscribe. If you do subscribe, or when you do, make sure you got that bell notification on so you don't want to miss the next video. As always guys, this is an easy install how-to. Hope you guys have a good day. Catch you in the next video.